Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening for this Understanding College Costs and Grants information webinar. My name is Enya Murray, and I'm joined by my colleague, Anya Murphy. We work as outreach officers in UCD Access and Lifelong Learning, and we're also delighted to have three of our Access leaders with us this evening. A warm welcome to Lorraine, Jade, and Niamh, who are here to share their student perspective. This evening, we'll give you an overview of the various costs associated with going to college and what financial supports may be available to you. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and we'll answer all of your questions after the presentation. If there's a specific question about your circumstance which you don't want to write in the Q&A, please feel free to contact us directly. We'll share all of our contact information at the end of the presentation. And then we're also recording the webinar, so we'll send you a copy of the recording direct to the email that you registered with. UCD is a university for all, and our office, Access and Lifelong Learning, works to ensure that everyone has equal opportunity to study at university and is included and supported in this diverse institution. Our goal is to make sure prospective students have all the information they need to make a decision about their future. This evening, we plan to share general information about college costs, and we'll make reference to some UCD examples, but the majority of the information should be relevant to you no matter where you're applying. We will look at college costs, the SUSI grant, other available funds, the scholarships we offer in Access and Lifelong Learning, and then other day-to-day costs associated with going to college. As mentioned, we will answer any queries that you might have at the end of the presentation, and don't worry, we'll give you plenty of time to type into the box, just after Niamh, Lorraine and Jade speak. So first off, we'll have a look at what you might expect your student account to look like. In the first column, you'll see the various charges that will be applied to your student account when you arrive. These include the Student Centre Levy, the Student Contribution Charge, and the Undergraduate Tuition Charge. The Undergraduate Tuition Charge, which we've highlighted here in red, is usually paid by the Higher Education Authority, who are typically known as the HEA. So provided a student has not been to college before, you can see that it's taken off your account straight away under the HEA free fees funding. This amount varies depending on the different courses. For example, the tuition charge for medicine is higher than the charge for arts. But regardless of this, the full amount will be covered by the HEA free fees funding. Then we have the Student Centre Levy. This must be paid by all students. It's a standalone charge and it's not covered by any grant. The charge for this in UCD is €254. And then we have the Student Contribution Charge, which is €3,000. This is charged to all students no matter what university they are attending. Students are required to begin to pay this fee from their point of registration and then can pay in instalments, typically with all fees being paid by January of that academic year. The fee schedule may vary in different colleges, so it might be no harm to find out what the payment options are in the colleges you are interested in attending. The Student Contribution Charge covers various college costs, such as your examination fee, insurance and registration costs. This is a charge the SUSI grant might cover, or at least a portion of it. If a student is eligible to receive the full SUSI grant, they can expect to only pay the Student Centre Levy. You'll see on the spreadsheet that we have the charges coming in and then the various payments balancing them off. An online payment was made to cover the Student Centre Levy. Then the student was in receipt of the full SUSI grant, so this payment was made by SUSI on their behalf to cover the Student Contribution Charge. And then finally, the HEA free fees funding covered the tuition charge. So this all leaves a balance of €0. The three charges that you can expect to see in your student account each year are, as mentioned, the Student Centre Levy, the Student Contribution Charge, and the tuition fee. The Student Centre Levy can also be paid in instalments. So you can pay the first third when you start in September, and then the balance will be expected when you return in trimester 2 in January. With the Student Contribution Charge, if you're eligible for the SUSI grant, then the college and SUSI works together to arrange transfer of this payment. Sometimes students will still be waiting to hear if they're SUSI eligible when they start college. If you find yourself in this situation, do not pay until you know the outcome of your SUSI application. If you like, you can let your student desk know that you're awaiting the outcome. As mentioned in the previous slides, Most students will have the tuition fee paid for them by the HEA. To be eligible for this funding, students have to meet various criteria around residency and citizenship status. Typically, this is based on how long you've been in Ireland and what status you hold. We recommend that you look into this now if either of these criteria are causing you any concern. Citizens Information Ireland provides good, clear information on this, and a quick Google search will bring you to the relevant webpage. If you're unsure of your free fees eligibility, you can use the free fee assessment eligibility reckoner at ucd.ie/students/fees. So I'll say that one again. That's www.ucd.ie/students/fees. Now, with regards to the student grant, which will help you cover your student contribution charge, this funding is made through SUSI, which stands for Student Universal Support Ireland. This application typically opens in April every year, so pop a reminder in your calendar now to check their website on the first week of April for an update. You can submit your application from this point, and we always recommend that you do this as early as you can. You do not need to have confirmation of your course place before you apply, and you mightn't have even decided if you're going to accept the college place. But it's easier to have applied for it earlier and then be given the chance to forget about it until you need it. For this application, SUSI requires you send documents based on the family income the year before you start college. For example, if you're thinking about applying for this year, it'll be based on your 2020 income. Other types of grants and bursaries that you may be eligible for include the HEAR Student Support Fund. So the HEAR scheme does not provide financial support directly, but when students enter college as a HEAR student, they are automatically entitled to apply for the Student Support Fund each year they are studying. The funding amounts and application process for this fund vary in different colleges. So it will be worthwhile to check with the college of your choice to see what you might expect to receive. In UCD, the fund is typically valued at €500 per year of study. However, due to circumstances this year, the fund increased to €750 per student this academic year. With regards to scholarships, there's a variety of scholarships available to students who enter UCD through an access pathway, such as HEAR, DARE, or KQIFET. These students are invited to apply for a range of scholarship opportunities, such as the Cathair na Féine Scholarship, 1916 bursary, and the PATH Open Learning. Details of all these scholarships and their eligibility criteria are available on our website, www.ucd.ie/ALL. Students who are on our UCD Future You mentoring programme will be invited to apply to the UCD Future You scholarship later in the spring. This scholarship is worth €1,500 per year of study and will be in touch with mentees directly with information on how to apply in the coming weeks. There's a host of other financial information available in each college across Ireland, so please make sure that you do a bit of research. These other supports could include the Student Welfare Fund or the Student Assistance Fund. I mentioned that UCD Cathair na Féine Scholarship in the last slide. This scholarship is the largest access scholarship programme in the country, and it's a competitive process. We typically have up to 100 scholarships per year, and it's worth €1,500 per year of study. You have to apply to this scholarship in your first year, and then you will receive the annual payment for every stage you progress in UCD. In order to be eligible to apply, you must have come in through one of our admission pathways, for example, HEAR, DARE and KQIFET, and have a low household income of under €45,870. We advertise this scholarship application on our website and social media pages, so please keep an eye out for this over the summer so you can be ready to get your application in once it's open. I'll now pass over to Anya, who will give you further information on the various funding opportunities, college costs, and the additional information on the SUSI application process.
Thanks, Enya. So there are a range of other financial supports available to students outside of what Enya has already mentioned. The important bit is just finding out what is available in your local area. You might have a partnership office or a local development office supporting your area, for example, the Ballyfermot Chapel Lizard Partnership or Wexford Local Development Office or a Southside Partnership. Sometimes these offices have specific funds in place to help assist students from the area to go on to third level education, But even if they don't provide funding, they might be more familiar with the local funds available, so it would be no harm checking in with them. The St. Vincent de Paul Education and Training Fund has been established to support students of all ages who may struggle financially to access or stay in third level education and training programs. Applications for this fund are made through your regional St. Vincent de Paul office, and all of the information about this fund is available on their website. There's also credit union bursaries. There are a number of credit unions who offer funding through their educational bursaries or grant schemes. You should get in touch with your local credit union to see if this support is available to you. The Department of Education and Skills run a number of scholarship schemes, such as the third level bursary scheme, the Ernest Walton STEM bursary, and the All Ireland Scholarship Scheme, and the European University Institute scheme. Eligibility criteria can be found on www.gov.ie. Then the Refugee Education Fund provides financial assistance to people in the asylum process in accessing further education. This helps to provide support with course fees, transportation costs, and course materials. The fund is usually open for applications in July, and more information can be found on the Irish Refugee Council's website. And then lastly, your child benefit support can be extended to children under the age of 18 who are in full-time education or full-time training. You might already be familiar with this application process, but we just wanted to include it just to highlight it. With regards to college costs, we have referenced some of the larger costs below. So accommodation, so most students who live in Dublin or within reasonable commuting distance will continue to live at home while they're in college if they can. As we know, renting can be very expensive. And if you're in need of accommodation, most student unions have information on their websites of local services you can use to find accommodation. In UCD, we always tell students to check the UCD Accommodation Pad website for housing options and recommend Digs as the cheaper option. This is where you live in a family home and have your meals provided along with your accommodation. Other big costs include transport, so make sure you sign up for a student leave card or travel card to avail of cheaper rates. Books and laptops, a lot of students will use their student support payment to fund these purchases. The Student Centre levy, as we mentioned earlier, can be paid in instalments and isn't covered by the grant schemes. Everybody has to pay that. Food is another big expense, so we always recommend students bring their own lunches to campus. Most colleges will also provide microwaves for students to use. For those living with their families, you might be expected to pay a contribution towards your household bills. And socialising, so part of going to college is taking part in social activities and attending events and nights out, so make sure you budget sensibly for this. And then your phone, so shop around to make sure that you're on the best plan as well. So here we can go into a bit more detail on these costs, how they might add up, and to give you something to start planning and budgeting for September. So these costs are for students who can expect to have their student contribution charge of €3,000 fully covered by SUSI, but you'll need to budget in this charge if you're not eligible for that grant support. With the Student Centre levy, if you choose to pay it in 3 instalments over the 5 months from September to January, this would amount to about €85. And for travel, with travel expenses, as mentioned in the previous slide, make sure you avail of the student rates and apply for your travel card. The student leave card is capped at €120 per month for travel on Dublin Bus, and then different capping rates are applied on the regional services too. So it's definitely worthwhile to apply for your travel card. For books, for most courses, there won't be a need to buy lots of books. It's not like school, and many copies of the books are available in the library or the notes will be online, but sometimes books are required. And if you're thinking about using the library copies, make sure you get in early while the books are still available to borrow them. For a contribution to house, as mentioned, this depends on your own household, so just have the conversation now with your parents or guardians so you know how much to budget for. And for your phone, the typical cost for this is about €20 per month. There are lots of student-specific phone plans, so just make sure that you're not paying more than you need to, so it's worth shopping around. For food, you might budget about €40 to €50. At the start, you might buy lunch and coffee on campus, and then you'll quickly notice how that all adds up. So our advice is to bring lunch with you. It's nice to treat yourself to coffee and cake every so often, and the various restaurants will advertise special offers. So keep an eye out for those as well. And one way to make new friends is to join clubs and societies, and it usually costs around €2 to join the society, and then there are free or cheaper events that are arranged through your society that you can attend. So make sure you have a bit of money set aside for these activities as they come up in September. So what if you're not eligible for HEAR? So it's really important to remember that HEAR does not offer financial assistance directly. It's an admissions pathway. Your HEAR application has no effect on your SUSI application. They are two different services that have no impact on each other. The same can be said for the student tuition fee. The criteria for the free fee scheme is quite different to the HEAR scheme. So don't be worried if you're not granted HEAR eligibility in June, as your HEAR application will not affect either of these schemes. As mentioned earlier, there is a fund called the Student Assistance Fund, which in UCD provides €500 support per year to eligible students. So this fund could be an option for you to apply to even if you don't have HEAR eligibility. We do always recommend that if you think you might be eligible for HEAR or DARE, that you should apply to give yourself the best opportunity to go to college. That's through the CAO. And with regards to your SUSI application, the financial paperwork differs to your HEAR application paperwork. With the HEAR scheme, the application deadline is earlier and therefore they rely on older documents. The HEAR 2021 application will ask for your household documents from 2019, but your SUSI 2021 application will ask for 2020 financial documents. So make sure you submit the correct years to each scheme. SUSI will assess the whole household's income, and this may include the student applying if they are working and have a source of income. The supporting documents you will be asked to supply might include a statement of liability for 2020 and any social welfare statements. Both of these documents can be downloaded online either through your revenue profile for the statement of liability or through the welfare.ie or through welfare.ie for the statement request portal for the social welfare statements. And this might be a handy way to access your social welfare statement if your intro office is currently closed. Then you might also need to provide statements of payments made through any schemes, community employment schemes or through the HSE, maintenance agreements and birth certificates. SUSI has access to get this information directly or to make a query with the relevant government department. So make sure you supply all of the correct information and paperwork in your initial application. For members of the household who are self-employed, you will be asked for a copy of their accounts from the 1st of January 2020 to 31st of December 2020, an adjusted profit computation for 2020, and a notice of assessment for 2020. Please note that the Form 11 is not accepted in place of your trading accounts or the revenues indicative calculation on which you based your self-assessment. For members of the household who are retired or were made redundant, you will be asked to supply a letter from your employer or the body administering your pension with the date of your retirement or redundancy, your lump sum and how many years of service you had. So for all of the applications you make, whether it be SUSI or a scholarship fund, we have a few tips for you to keep in mind. Make sure you keep a folder to keep all of your financial documents safe and together. Send good, clear photocopies. If they're two-sided documents, make sure that you send both sides of the document, both copies of each side of the document. Hold on to the originals of each document in case you are asked to supply it again at a later date. Carefully read through the required documents for any grant or scholarship application you are making. Don't automatically deem yourself ineligible by sending through the incorrect paperwork or paperwork from an incorrect year. Save a copy of your personal statement and essay answers for the different scholarships you apply for. Sometimes this statement can be adjusted and edited to suit the various applications you are making, and it will save you time instead of having to write out a new statement for each application. Apply for everything you see. We have mentioned a number of scholarships and funds available, but we encourage you to do search online or ask people in your area or your school to see if there are other scholarships that you could apply for too. There's an abundance of information available online, both around the various financial supports available to students and also around how to make successful applications. Here is a small selection of various sites we usually refer to for information. So grantsonline.ie, this will become your most used link when you're making your SUSI application. It will bring you straight to the application's login page. SUSI.ie, we've mentioned SUSI throughout this presentation and really recommend their website as a place to visit to find information and other resources on how to make this grant application. The SUSI help desk are always very prompt to respond to your query, so don't hesitate to use this function either. ucd.ie/all, this is our website. We update this with all of our current opportunities, so make sure you keep an eye on it. We also use our social media platforms for guidance and support, and you can find us at @UCD4all. Then spunout.ie is Ireland's youth information website and contains a range of information and supports on a variety of topics, including education and employment. Studentfinance.ie will bring you to the HEA's information around the financial assistance schemes available in Ireland to help students progress through further and higher education. And you can also find information on the free fees scheme eligibility criteria on this website. UCD.ie is the main website for UCD and the place where we keep all of the information on studying in UCD and the individual schools and colleges. accesscollege.ie, if you're making a HERE or a DARE application, we recommend you visit this website. There's a wide range of resources and information on how to make these applications and what to do if you need to submit an appeal application later in the year. And cao.ie, that I'm sure you're all familiar with. The additional features we find most useful in this website include the demo application and the parents guide, so make sure you have a look at those. One of the more positive aspects of the COVID pandemic is that organisations are now relying heavily on their websites and social media pages to communicate their information to students. So if you're thinking about applying for a certain scholarship or grant, take a look at that organisation's social media pages, as they might have created videos to webinars with hints and tips on how to make your application. For example, we have information videos on how to make a scholarship application available on our YouTube page. So that's it from us in terms of the presentation section of the evening, and we're now delighted to pass the controls over to our UCD students, Niamh, Jade and Lorraine, who are going to give you an insight into their experience of managing the various college costs, finding student discounts and balancing work with study.
Hi, so I'm studying business and law. I'm in my third year, so I have 1 year left. I'm really enjoying it so far, and I think I'll go into accountancy.
Hi, I'm Niamh. I'm in my final year of studying English and Geography.
Hi, my name's Lorraine. I'm in my second year studying English and Irish.
So Jade, would you go ahead.
Sorry. I suppose one of the big things I found for college is getting a good laptop. I never had a laptop before I went to college. Well, I had my mom's laptop and that was it, but that wouldn't have been suitable for college. So the one thing I really found like making a good investment into is getting a good laptop and go to Harvey Norman, PC World, Currys, and get help on what laptop to get as well. Because I wouldn't have known anything about laptops, so really get whoever's working there, get their advice as well on getting a good laptop and pay the money for it. It's definitely something that I definitely needed and a lot of students will definitely need, so that's what I'd recommend.
Yeah, as an English student, one of the main costs for me was books. You have to buy an awful lot of novels and it can be a bit intimidating first when you get your book lists and there could be maybe 10 books for one course. So what I would recommend is first emailing professors before you go buying books, because sometimes they have links that they'll put up on the web, on the Brightspace, which is the student platform. Or I buy most of my books online secondhand. They're not really fussy about editions in the School of English, and most professors will let you buy older books. Sometimes they put textbooks up online as well, which can be quite expensive. But as Anya said, check on the UCD library, because sometimes there's access there, or you can get them online much more reasonable than you could in the campus bookshop.
Just in my experience with books, I relied heavily on the campus bookshop. Like Niamh said, there is a lot of online availability, but for me personally, I think I've really enjoyed actually having a book in my hand. So I relied on the campus. Kind of going around to Amazon and different websites looking for them. So it kind of was all just there for me, very cheap. And also availed of the access.
I might have lost Lorraine there, but I think maybe she was going to talk about the book tokens that you can get as a UCD Access and Lifelong Learning student. Jade, do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, as part of being like, whether you come through the HERE scheme, DARE scheme, open program, you get book tokens and you get them every year that you're in college, and you can use them at the campus bookshop. You can use them on like I think it's booktokens.ie as well, and like they're so handy. I think they're like, I don't want to give the wrong amount, but it's about €40, and like that nearly, for me, that covers my books. I didn't buy a lot because I just get them from the library, but for Niamh, I'm sure it was definitely a big help and stuff, so there is supports.
And Jade, on your laptop as well, like you needed that for your course because you're studying business and law, but Niamh, you wouldn't have needed a laptop, like as in for the course, that you might have been able to borrow it from the library or things like that.
For English, yeah, you can borrow from the library, or an awful lot of my friends would use tablets and they'd write their notes on the tablet and then they'd use Word. For geography, you do need to download certain programs, so it's better off having a laptop. So it's really about looking into your course and what your course will need, and then, as Jade said, going into the different shops and asking them for advice on what they would recommend. It is important to note that not everyone needs the same laptop, and someone studying arts might need the same laptop as someone studying law or engineering, and just be mindful of the price as well, because you don't want a laptop that can do everything when you only need a basic laptop.
It's good.
Yeah, I think actually as well, if you get to bring your laptop one day, like the library has laptops in the library that like you can use, but they just can't leave the library. So like if students, you know, maybe don't have the greatest laptop, they can still use the ones that are supplied there.
That's great. And then transport is a big cost as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, it was a big change from walking 10 minutes up the road to my school to traveling an hour and a half on a bus into UCD. But there are ways to combat the cost. As Anya said, you can get the student leap card, which gives you reduced rates. There's capping every week depending on the form of transport you use, or they do Rambler tickets on the student leap card as well. So like me, I was only in college 3 days a week in first year, so I wouldn't have reached the cap, but I bought myself a Rambler ticket every month, which then reduced my cost by €6 every week, which then added up over the year, which helped me pay for my books or contributed towards my laptop cost.
Yeah, I would get I'd get 2 buses to college and then 2 buses from college. So that was like a €5 each way. So having a cap-in every day is like so helpful. Like the student leap card is definitely so beneficial, and especially if your child doesn't turn 18 until like later on in college, like after a year, they should keep like the child leap card, because that's even cheaper again. So try keep the child one for like as long as you can, because that's like so cheap as well. I think it's only like literally $8.50 a week, you know, where like the student one is €20 a week. So just something else to kind of think about. There's also like if you drive, you can pay for parking. The parking permit, it's about €50 for the year, depending, maybe semester, it just depends, but it's something that someone can look into, and if they drive and they want to take that route to college.
Another benefit to the student leap card is discounts as well. That you can get, I think it's 10% off in DID, Boots give you a discount, as well as just having your UCD student card or any student card for any college in Ireland. You can sign up to websites like Unidays, which give you discounts on different websites and different shops, which then mean necessities like your laptop or your books, you then get a further discount on just for being a student as well.
It's really useful. And then when you started, would you have noticed like that the cost of eating on campus was a lot? How did you manage that?
I was just about to say about like another benefit of the discount is that on campus we get like there's cheap meals in like the student union. You can get like a drink, a sandwich and crisps or something for a €5. So it's handy enough to pick up maybe once or twice a week, but like don't go, like make sure they don't go in every week and spend like a €5 every single day, because that's like €25, and then multiply that by 4 for a month, you know, it's literally €100, and it's not worth that kind of money. So it's really important to bring in like your own lunch to kind of college, just a few snacks and stuff. Don't be wasting so much money on campus, even though it is kind of cheap at the time. Yeah.
It is definitely a novelty when you start college. You have all this freedom, and I was meeting up with friends every day to go for coffee or lunch, and you feel it adding up, and eventually everyone starts bringing in their own lunch, or if you bring in your keep cup, which is your own coffee cup, you can go to the student union shop, which subsidise the coffee or subsidise the snacks as well that you buy on campus.
Great. And any tips for applications, scholarship applications, or Susie or anything like that?
I didn't actually apply for a Susie or here on some bad advice that I got, but I would recommend applying for everything that you can. The worst that can happen is they say no, but you don't regret it. I would also say get your applications in as soon as possible. I applied for a scholarship in UCD, and it just takes the pressure off you and your kid when you go to UCD that you or any college. Is just that you have them out of the way and you can stop worrying about it until you get your acceptance.
I can't really follow on with any tips from that, but the Susie and the scholarship that UCD provides, which is the Cobham na Féine scholarship, are like so beneficial. It's really helped me. It kind of went towards my laptop, as I was saying, because I paid a lot of money for that. And then it's helpful to have and make any mistakes, and drag out the process. So definitely something to really kind of focus on and get in as soon as possible.
And aside from scholarships and grants, there are other ways to help fund college. I work on campus. I work with the Access Centre, but I also work for the student ambassadors. And what's handy about that is, especially with the ambassadors, is they work around your timetable. You pick the work that you take on, and so you can work around college, and it's not an added on pressure, because you do want to be careful that if you are working through college, that it's not taking over and that you still have the time to actually like apply yourself to college, make sure you're going to class and you have enough time for your assignments as well.
I actually work off campus and so I work in town, so I have to then like plan my day in advance and like Niamh said, plan your study, because you have to then, sometimes you have to say no to things that you can't maybe go out with the friends for a meal in town because you have to go to work, or else you have to get some study done. So, even though work and college comes first, try to balance between the two and find a common ground. But it's definitely possible to do part-time work and like go to college at the same time. Lots of students do it. So, but if you don't have to, it's just there for good experience as well.
It's good advice, actually. And I think for UCD, the exams are always before Christmas, and that can be a really busy time for part-time work. So it's to make sure that you might request holidays and things earlier if you needed to rely on working part-time. Yeah, great. Any last words of wisdom? No, very wise already, so that's okay. That's okay, thank you. So we lost Lorraine, but thanks a million to Jade and Niamh and for Lorraine for being here. So the information was really useful, and it's great to have a student perspective on this topic. So we've shared a lot of information with you, and thank you for your attention. We'll have time to answer your questions now in just a moment. But we'd like to remind you that you can contact us at any time with questions at all@ucd.ie or by contacting us directly. So my email address is anya.murphy@ucd.ie and Enya's is enya.murray@ucd.ie. And we'll also send you a recording of this presentation by email, and thank you for your attention, and we look forward to your questions if you have any, and if not, we look forward to hopefully speaking to you or seeing you soon. You can ask any questions in the Q&A function or in the chat at the bottom of your screen, and we'll just give you a few minutes to type any questions that you might have, or you can just email us directly if you prefer not to put them here.
Thanks a million, Jade, Niamh, and nearly Lorraine. It was brilliant.
So a question, do you have to pay full fees if you change college course? So yes, so if you were eligible for free fees, and if you did first year, say in nursing, and then decided that at the end of if you stayed for the full year and decided that you didn't want to do nursing and you were reapplying to the CAO and starting a new course, you would then owe the full fees for the first year of your new course. But if you only did that 1 year, then your free fees would kick back in for your second and third and fourth year. If you did one semester, if you just did say September to December, and then you decided to not go back after you withdraw officially from the course and start a new course then the following September or at some point after that, you would just owe fees for one semester. So those the first few months. So it's just what you've already studied. Yeah, and then if you were doing an entirely new course, you only get the free fees for one course. So it's just important to know that you would pay for that for another course. Anything to add?
Same thing as well, Anya, if you have to repeat the year.
Yes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. If you have to repeat the year, then you end up paying the full amount. There is a thing actually that you become if you start, just to note, if you were to start a course and you don't finish it, if you stay out of education for 5 years, you're then considered a second chance student, and you can go and study a course without paying the fees again once you're out of college for 5 full years. But yeah, hopefully you've researched the course and have chosen the one that's good for you. But I know that these things always come up, so that could happen. I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you wanted to put into the Q&A section. Oh, maybe we've answered everything, which is okay. This can just be a personal thing. I think the main things are just to take into consideration the information that Lorraine and Jade and Niamh shared about, it being expensive maybe at first when you realise that you have a different freedom in college, and just to know to budget carefully for the rest of the year. And that you can pay in installments. I think that's a really useful thing to know about. If the student centre levy is all that you owe, that you know that you can pay it in installments, and to always just seek help, because there are student advisors in UCD, but there is the equivalent in other institutions. So if you were concerned about finances, that you can come and talk to staff members and we'll help. And yeah, there are funds for kind of unexpected financial things that come up as well during your time in college, which might be a useful thing to remember. But when it comes to making the scholarship applications and other grant applications, SUSI applications, just make sure that you do apply for everything. I know we've said that lots of times now. Just make sure that you apply for everything, and that you request all the documents that you need well in advance, so that you can have if it's SUSI, that you have that in place, and even before you get your offer for your course, that you might have it in place. So I think that's it. Anything to add before we end?
Same thing, Anya. I think that when you're doing the application, the questions will start springing to mind. So look back on this webinar and get our emails at that point. So it could be like April when you're opening your SUSI application and you have a question. Find our emails and just send us a little email and we'll help you out.
Oh, another one. So the fee for the year is 3,254. Yeah, so the fee, generally that is what it is. So the student contribution is the €3,000, and that's set by the government. So no matter where you go, no matter what university you go to, that'll be the charge. And the student contribution is 254. So if you weren't eligible for SUSI and you were qualifying for free fees, which most people would, then the charge for the year is 3,254. There's a long way to say yes, wasn't it? But yes.
Just to note, if you do the year in year 2 in QQI FET, that you may need to actually apply for your free fees to be activated on your student account. So when you come in September, you might see the tuition charge pop up on your account. So you might just need to actively say, apply for my free fees, whereas it's done automatically for students coming in from 6th year. So just keep that in mind if you decide to do the QQI FET route. Happy days.
Great.
Cool beans. Thanks a million again for joining us this evening, and our emails are open And check our website www.ucd.ie/ALL for any info. And good luck with all your applications. Take care.